Let me paint a picture for you. Two people, same city, same age, both making right around, $74,000 a year?
Yeah, right at the national median. On paper, they look completely identical.
Exactly, but person A is currently stuck in a dealership parking lot on a Tuesday evening.
And the salesman keeps telling him, hey, it's less than your daily coffee habit, which is, well, a complete lie. But by hour 3, he stopped doing the math. He has $340 in savings, and his credit card is maxed out at $6,400.
And the crazy part is he's not even irresponsible. He's just doing exactly what the average American does.
Right. Then you have person B. Wednesday morning, sitting at her kitchen table, coffee is hot, and no alarm set. She just took the day off because she could.
Not because she's rich, she's not, but she has 4 months of expenses tucked away in a high-yield account, a paid-off car, and she actually sleeps 8 hours a night.
Same income, entirely different financial reality. Look, the difference between these two people isn't luck, it's behavior, specifically 15 signs.
Which is exactly what we're breaking down today. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Frank. Welcome to Talk and Wonder. We create easy-to-understand whiteboard animations covering family finance, investing, passive income, and debt management. Our goal is to break down complex financial topics, help you avoid traps, and build wealth together. If you want to secure your future, you are exactly in the right place.
But before we jump into the first sign, Frank, we have to address something deeply uncomfortable. We've all been conditioned to think that being average financially is fine.
Yeah, like it means stable. It doesn't. Average actually means 68% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
Wait, 68%?
Yeah, and the majority of adults couldn't even cover a $1,000 emergency without swiping a credit card, so the bar for doing better than average is actually terrifyingly low.
Which brings us to sign number 1. You have an emergency fund that covers 3 months of expenses. Just 3.
And this is where most people fail immediately. Bankrate just dropped their 2025 data, and a full 24% of adults have zero emergency savings. Not a little bit, literal zero.
God. And going back to that $1,000 thing, $1,000 isn't a financial emergency. That's just a mildly inconvenient Tuesday.
A mildly inconvenient Tuesday, exactly. You need new brakes, the water heater breaks, but when you don't have that cash,
It's just this constant low hum of anxiety, Checking the bank app before buying groceries. Every unexpected $600 bill doesn't feel like an inconvenience. It feels like a literal threat.
yeah, and when that hit hits, 25% of people put it on a credit card, so a one-time problem just became a multi-month bleeding wound at 22% interest.
Right. Okay, sign number 3 is a big one. You pay your credit card in full every single month.
Right. Let me throw a number at you. U.S. credit card debt just hit $1.27 trillion. Trillion with a T.
Frank, stop. $1 trillion?
Oh, it gets worse. Let me introduce you to, let's call him Caleb. He's 28, owes $6,400, but he pays his $128 minimum on time every month, thinks he's super financially responsible.
Okay, what's the catch?
What Caleb doesn't realize is that at 22% interest, he will pay over $9,000 in interest alone before that balance hits zero.
Wait, so he's paying 15 grand for $6,000 worth of stuff?
Exactly. He is essentially paying an ignorance tax of $8,600. He's not managing debt, he's subscribed to it.
An ignorance tax. That is exactly what it is, because the credit card system is literally designed to trap you, and if you're paying in full, you're the one walking out unscathed.
Speaking of unscathed, there's a wealth engine out there that 38% of Americans are completely missing out on. They're literally just sitting in the parking lot while everyone else. Which brings us to sign number 4. You actually invest in the stock market consistently.
Right, which is basically the greatest wealth-building engine of the last 100 years. But how many people are actually using it?
That's the crazy part. 38% of American adults own zero stock. None.
None? Like, not even in a retirement account?
Nothing. If the market were a buffet, 38% of Americans are basically sitting in the parking lot eating a granola bar, wondering why they're still hungry.
Okay, that's a painfully accurate mental image, but it's also because people overcomplicate it, right? They think they need to hire some guy in a suit to beat the market.
Which they don't. Less than 1 in 4 actively managed funds beat their passive benchmark over 10 years. You pay higher fees to get statistically worse results than the boring index fund that just sits there.
Boring is good. Boring makes you rich. Speaking of which, sign number 5, you save more than 10% of your income.
Oh boy. So, the historical average for U.S. personal savings is around 8.4%. Experts recommend 15 to 20, but in early 2025, the actual U.S. savings rate hit 4.5%.
4.5%, Frank. That's like bringing a plastic fork to a knife fight.
It really is. Look at a median household earning roughly $83,000 a year. At 4.5%, they're saving about $3,700 annually.
Which vanishes the second your car needs a new transmission.
Exactly. But a household saving 15%, they set aside over $12,000. Same paycheck, completely different trajectory. If you invest that extra $8,800 a year for 30 years,
The compound interest?
you're looking at roughly $890,000 in additional wealth built on the exact same income.
Almost $1 million, just from a percentage point difference.
Yeah. But Lynn, here is something really uncomfortable to sit with. Every sign we just talked about, most people assume they are doing okay at them.
Right. The people living paycheck to paycheck don't think they're struggling. They think they're just normal.
Exactly. But the next few signs, this is where the gap between what people believe and what's actually true gets genuinely painful. Sign number 6, your net worth is positive.
Which sounds like the absolute floor of financial health, right? Just having more assets than liabilities.
It should be, but 41% of Gen Z adults report zero or negative net worth, and total U.S. household debt just hit a record $18.8 trillion.
You know, negative net worth has a texture to it. It's that hesitation before you open your banking app. It's doing math at 11 p.m. in your head, and no matter how you move the numbers around,
They don't get better. Yeah, just being in the black is an achievement right now, especially when you look at, well, the biggest wealth destroyer in America. Sign number 7, you own your car outright or keep payments reasonable.
Oh no, are we talking about cars? Because we have made some highly questionable decisions in this department.
Let's just focus on the data, honey. The average monthly payment on a new car is now $767
For a luxury car?
for a regular car purchased by a regular person. And get this, the average loan length is almost 69 months, nearly 6 years.
6 years of paying for something that loses value every time you pull out of the driveway.
And 20% are stretching that to 84 months, 7 years. That's not financing a purchase, Lynn. That's renting the feeling of being wealthy.
With heated seats and a backup camera.
Right. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, Edmunds found that the average trade-in was underwater by $7,214.
Wait, stop. Say that again? 7,000?
Heavy sigh. $7,000. Meaning when they bought their next car, they didn't just buy a new car. They paid $7,000 for a car they don't even own anymore, and then started fresh payments.
That is literally financial sabotage. I mean, $767 a month could be going into your investments, but instead it's just leaking out. And honestly, it's not even just the big stuff like cars. The silent leaks are almost worse. Like, you know what happens when you don't check your bank statements for 3 months?
What happens?
You discover the ghosts. The ghost subscriptions, which brings us right into sign number 8. You actually track your spending, and I mean
actually.
Oh, the ghosts. Yeah, 86% of Americans say they have a budget, but only like 51% actually use it. That gap is where the money vanishes.
Exactly. When surveyed, people guess they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions, but when every single charge is itemized, the real number is $219.
Ooh, that is a $133 gap every single month.
Because of the ghosts. It's the free trial for that premium meditation app you downloaded 2 years ago. Haven't opened since, but it still charges you $15 a month just to play the sound of rain.
The $15 rain sounds.
Right? Congratulations, you are literally funding someone else's quarterly earnings with money you didn't even know you had. And it's not just subscriptions, it's the Instagram algorithms. 48% of social media users have bought something impulsively just because the algorithm knew exactly what moment to show them exactly the right product.
It's the machine designed to separate you from your money, which is why if you actually know what you spend, not I think it's around this much, but actually know, you have a level of financial self-awareness that most people genuinely lack.
Totally, and that self-awareness naturally bleeds into sign number 9. Your credit score is above 750.
Right, because the average U.S. FICO score actually dropped to 714 in 2024, first decline in a decade. Only about 48% of Americans sit at 750 or higher.
Okay, but beyond just bragging rights, why does 750 matter so much?
Because it is a literal permanent discount on life. Picture this. Two people walk into the same bank for the exact same mortgage. One has a 680 credit score, the other has a 760.
Okay.
That second person, the one with the 760, pays tens of thousands of dollars less in interest over 30 years. Tens of thousands.
Just because of a 3-digit number.
Exactly. The behavior that builds that score, paying on time, keeping balances low, is the exact same behavior that builds wealth. And to do that, you need sign number 10. You actually understand basic financial concepts.
Which I feel like is where the education system completely failed us, right?
Oh, completely. The TIAA Institute tested Americans on 28 basic financial concepts. The average score? 48% correct.
48%. That's not passing. That's barely showing up to the exam.
And the consequences aren't just, abstract theories. They're arithmetic. If you don't understand compound interest, you pay for it in credit card charges. If you don't understand tax-advantaged accounts, you leave retirement money exposed to taxes when you don't have to. Financial ignorance has a massive price tag.
It just doesn't show up on a single, easy-to-read bill. It bleeds you slowly.
Right. But if you know the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional 401k or why index funds usually beat active strategies, you are in the top quarter of financial literacy. You see the math underneath the choices.
Which leads to making choices that actually protect your family. Like sign number 11, you have life insurance and disability coverage. And Frank, this one makes me so mad because people avoid it for the dumbest reason.
They assume it's too expensive.
Yes, 75 million people have no life insurance coverage whatsoever. And surveys show that 72% of people significantly overestimate what a basic term life policy actually costs. So they just leave their families exposed based on a myth.
And disability insurance is even worse. Just 18% of U.S. adults have it, even though 1 in 4 20-year-olds will experience a long-term disability before they hit 67.
And think about what that means. If you couldn't work for just 6 months, not permanently, just 6 months, nearly half of U.S. households would face absolute financial hardship, not an inconvenience. Hardship.
Right. Protecting against that catastrophic tail risk, the thing everyone assumes won't happen to them, that is a massive sign of financial maturity. But there is another kind of health risk that actually forces people into debt every single day, and it's not the one you can buy a policy for.
You mean skipping the doctor?
Exactly, which is sign number 12. You don't skip medical care because of cost. And this one is brutal. A 2025 KFF health tracking poll found that 36% of American adults had skipped or delayed needed health care in the prior year because they simply couldn't afford it.
Wait, but what about insurance?
That includes 37% of insured adults. People who are paying premiums every single month are still avoiding the doctor because of copays and deductibles.
Skipping a $200 checkup to save money only to end up in the ER 3 months later with a $4,000 bill? I mean, that is the financial equivalent of refusing to change your car's oil and then having to buy a whole new engine.
That is a perfect analogy. Technically a choice, but a terrible one. Look, if you could go to the doctor when something feels wrong and just absorb the bill without going into debt, you possess a level of stability that more than a third of the country simply does not have.
And one way to build that stability is sign number 13. You have more than one source of income. But Frank, I want to be really specific here. We are not just talking about working 2 jobs to survive, right?
Right, a massive distinction. About 38% of Americans have some form of secondary income, but LendingTree found that 61% of those side hustlers say their life would be completely unaffordable without that extra money.
So they're not building a foundation. They're just treading water to keep their head up.
Exactly. They needed to maintain the floor, but an additive income stream, one that accelerates your position, that is a fundamentally different game. We're talking rental income, dividends, freelance work where the money goes straight into investments instead of rent. Research on self-made millionaires consistently shows that 65% of them had at least 3 streams of income.
Because if you have money coming in beyond your primary paycheck and you don't actually need it to survive the month, you've moved from financial fragility to financial optionality.
Optionality. I love that word. It's the ultimate flex. But there is a trap waiting on the other side of that success, and it swallows high-income earners whole.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going. Sign number 14, you've resisted lifestyle creep as your income grew. This one is so sneaky because it doesn't feel like a trap when you're in it.
No, it doesn't. Every upgrade feels totally earned. Every expense feels justified. Listen to this. Goldman Sachs found that 41% of workers earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year.
Wait, are you about to tell me they live paycheck to paycheck?
Yes, at $400,000 a year.
Okay, that is a remarkable achievement in the wrong direction. How do you even do that?
Goldman attributes it directly to lifestyle creep, the phenomenon where luxuries quietly become necessities.
Right, the leased SUV upgrade suddenly becomes a necessity for the kids' safety. The private school becomes a necessity, and suddenly dropping $280 on a random Tuesday night dinner feels completely normal, which is wild because for $280, that steak should literally be able to do your taxes for you.
Do your taxes, exactly. And the craziest part is 78% of Americans report making purchases they immediately regret.
Most people, most of the time, are spending money they didn't plan to spend on things they don't actually want, and they feel guilty about it within 5 minutes.
Yeah, so if your spending hasn't risen in lockstep with every single raise you've gotten, if you've directed those increases into savings instead of a bigger apartment, you've dodged the trap that bankrupts people at every income level.
Which leads us to the final sign, the one that actually separates the survivors from the wealth builders, the big one.
Sign number 15. You are not living paycheck to paycheck.
Which, given everything we just talked about, feels like the final boss of personal finance.
It really is. As of late 2025, 68% of Americans are caught in this trap. More than half of all workers need their very next paycheck just to, well, keep the lights on and the rent paid.
But wait, earlier you mentioned the 400K earners, so this isn't just a low-income problem, right?
Not at all. And this is the counterintuitive part. 50% of people making $100,000 or more also live paycheck to paycheck. High income does not automatically create financial stability. In most cases, it just creates, well, higher cost obligations.
The treadmill speeds up.
And you don't get off. Because living paycheck to paycheck doesn't just mean money is tight. It means, and this is the part that really hurts, you cannot make a single independent decision.
Because you're trapped. You can't take a risk on a new career that you might actually like. You can't leave a toxic situation. You can't absorb a hit without everything wobbling.
Right. Every single paycheck is basically just a permission slip to keep existing at the same exact level. That is not freedom. It's just a more comfortable version of the same constraint.
God, that is heavy, but it's true. The Federal Reserve actually found that 69% of Americans would be terrified about covering living expenses if they lost their primary income source today.
Yep. So if you're in the 31% who wouldn't because you have margin and savings and investments that could carry you, you have built the ultimate defense. You built something that 2/3 of the country is still just, well, wishing for.
Which really brings us to the entire point of this video. Look at all 15 of these signs, Frank. None of them, not a single one, requires a massive specific income.
They require behavior, sustained, consistent, usually boring behavior. The gap between the financially average person and the financially healthy person, it's not primarily an income gap. It's a behavior gap that just compounds silently over the years.
A person saving 15% of $60,000 is going to absolutely crush the person saving 2% of $100,000.
Exactly. The person with the paid-off $15,000 car and a fully funded emergency account is infinitely more resilient than the guy in the $65,000 leased SUV who only has $400 in savings.
The numbers sound backwards, but the math is not.
The math is not. Look, being average in America isn't a destination anymore. It's a current. And right now, that current is pulling most people straight toward a cliff. You can drift in it for years without noticing until you look up and realize how far you've gone.
So the question isn't really whether you're doing okay today. The question is, are you building towards something on purpose, or are you just keeping up with everyone who isn't?
If this video gave you something to think about or helped you spot a leak in your own financial boat, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel.
We'll see you in the next one. Keep building.